Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. We are here for another amazing evening of a chat of what is happening in the world of housing market, news, economics, and of course, how is that going to affect you and what is it that you need to know? So I have a couple articles to talk about today. I have a question for you today, and I'm hoping to get some interaction. And of course, as usual, a lot of you sent me your questions from last week on the results of the elections, as well as some other questions that are pertaining to a well and happy retirement. And I have all your questions, and I am definitely going to be bringing them up in the next couple of weeks. So please stay tuned. So let me share, and let's talk about a couple of things that I have picked out that I believe is important for you to know. Let me move this over. All right, here you go. First article that just came out from Housing Wire on Monday. It is really interesting that this is something that happens in the housing market every 4 years like clockwork. Whenever there is a major election, like presidential election that we just had last week, housing market actually does take a pause for election. And a lot of that I have seen have started in September. So what happened is everybody is enjoying their summertime. As soon as the kids are back to school and things kind of get settled and the routine is back, things are back on track, people are now focused on, okay, what is going on this fall? What are we looking at? So we have Halloween first, and then of course everybody has been glued to the news, to their tablets and phones and TVs about the election that took place on November the 5th. So this is exactly what this article is also talking about, is that inventory, new listings, sales, and prices all have dipped this week. The autumn season decline is upon us. Election took up a lot of people's lives last week, and that obviously delayed some listings and sale activities. Plus, we have had a spiking of mortgage rates. I had a meeting today with some of my colleagues in the senior service industry. This is exactly what we were talking about. One of them, her and I are working together on the plan to help her downsize into a 55 plus community. And this is what she was asking me today. Olga, what is going on with the interest rates? I thought that they were going to dip down because of the elections. And my answer to that, kind of like food for thought that I am sharing with you, is the fact that all of this takes time. It takes time for the emotions to calm down because, as you can imagine, a percentage of the country is not happy with the election results, and the percentage of the country is thrilled with election results. There's always going to be a group of people that is going to lose because that's just how it is. And with mortgage rates and interest rates, we're following the economy. It's going to take some time for things to calm down. And then, of course, we're heading into the holiday season. Let's see, Thanksgiving is 2 weeks away, right? It's really like the last week of the month of November. And then we are shopping and we're planning. There's holiday parties. There's, kids parties. There's things to purchase. So it is also a stressful time for a lot of people. And everything most of the time gets put on hold unless someone has a need to move because of relocation, which does happen a lot at the end of the year, or there's truly a need for someone to make a move and downsize, maybe because of health conditions. And that's when things do happen during the holiday season. However, most of the time, the last 6 weeks of the year, things do cool off and calm down. So I am not really anticipating any changes that are significant enough for me to tell you we're seeing it and it's really there until probably January. So this is when, of course, the inauguration happens. Then after that, we're going to have the first 90 days that the president and his new government, his new team are going to put in place on the things that they want to accomplish. And really, you're not going to feel the new government's things that they put in action and some of the changes that will be happening until probably late spring, summertime. So that is my prediction on what's going to happen. And yes, that also pertains to mortgage rates. I do anticipate rates calming down, but we're probably not going to see that until spring or maybe summertime of next year. It is actually not uncommon for housing activity to dip for the first week of November and rebound a bit in the following week. Given the confluence of trends right now, the gentleman that is talking about in this article, he expects the inventory and new listings to rebound again before the end of the month. And as we always talk about on this channel, is the number one important thing to remember when we're talking about housing market is the location. I can tell you that in a small state like New Jersey, market varies from neighborhood to neighborhood, school district to school district, whether it's North Jersey, Central Jersey, or South Jersey. And that's just how it is. So all of it is very much location based, all of it. The gentleman said that he's now looking forward to 2025 when the data comes in each week. There's some questions on the future of both sales volume as well as home prices. And Housing Wire is going to release their forecast paper next week. So that's where we're going to see, and they're going to present us with their expectations, their scenarios and data to track for the real estate market in the coming year. So here's what he's talking about is the full data for November 2024. Inventory is growing. Rising interest rates create rising inventory. Rising rates slow demand for homes, and when demand grows, inventory is also going to grow. And this has been true all year long, starting in the fourth quarter of 2023. At that time, mortgage rates actually rose from 6.5% to almost 8%, and inventory spiked as well. People got nervous. A lot of people were now not qualifying, right, because of the increase in the monthly payment, and things kind of cooled off because people were just exited the shopping market. For those high rates and rising inventory trends persisted for most of 2024, with only a small reprieve in the month of September. We're also at the seasonal decline time for the housing market as well. It's really hard for inventory to climb past Thanksgiving. We have 2 more weeks where we can expect more inventory of unsold homes on the market. But this week, unsold available single homes inventory around the country declined by nearly 2% to about 722,000. Election week delayed a bunch of new listings, a few sales completed, and there are fairly high number of withdrawn listings, plus the total homes on the market declined as well. Any new listings delayed are now listed, and that's why we will see an inventory rebound next week. The expectation is going to be around 728,000 or so. People only delayed listing for a few days, and buying conditions are worse than they have been recently. There are also 28% more homes on the market than a year ago. Inventory was still growing each week in November of 2023. And remember that 2024 inventory had been as much as 40% above 2023, and now it's 28%. And you know what? I can tell you that I'm not seeing this in our market. Depending on the price point, we still are seeing a lot of multiple offers where I have clients that are actually under contract to sell their home because they are downsizing. They really want to go to a different area, and they want to downsize from a 2-story colonial that they have with a large yard and a nice 2-car garage, and they are looking for a 1-story living, like a nice rancher that also has a garage and also has a yard, because they just don't want to take care of and they just don't want to do the stairs anymore. So that is definitely a popular move, but they also are facing stiffer competition. So our goal and our focus for them is for them to actually sell their home, settle in December. Our settlement is coming up in the beginning of December, and then be able to rent for a little bit. However, they're not going to be encumbered by the sale of their home, so that way they are more competitive. This is what we're seeing too, is that if you are making this transition where you need to sell something in order to buy, it is an absolute must where you need to sit down with your agent and talk strategy about how that can work in your market. I also have another client that is coming back from New Jersey. That's right. Actually, two clients that are done with Florida, and they are coming back up to New Jersey, and they're purchasing homes here. And one couple is able to purchase without having to sell. And what they're going to do, because remember, again, we're talking about a very different market, they are going to wait until January, because that is when all the snowbirds come down to Florida. This is when things resume for Florida market, and that's when they're all going to be able to get the house ready, get it prepped, ready to go, and then actually put it in the market probably in January or February. So that is one set of clients, and the other set has to sell their home actually on the East Coast, and then they'll be able to buy something because they really need to be closer to their family. So that is what we're working on right now, is figuring out what kind of market is in their particular neighborhood, in that town, how much they can realistically get for their home, what does that look like, and considering that the couple is in their 80s, how can we ease the transition and help them make this as stress-free possible. My recommendation to them is to sell their home and then make an agreement with the buyer to be able to rent the home back from the buyer for a few months. So that way they don't have to literally physically pick up and make a move and not have a place to go here up north. So this is all the strategy that we're still trying to figure out, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving pieces. And really, it is a two-stage approach. Stage one is for them to figure out on how are they going to do this, being that they're in their 80s and the family is actually here up north, figuring out furniture, all of the personal belongings, what is coming, what is not, and then working together with an agent who is a senior living specialist in Florida to help them make that transition. So that is something that I'm actually working with them currently. So, and that is really the planning stage that can be done now. It can be done in November, December. So that way you are fully ready to go and you're ahead of the game when the time comes in January, February for you to actually take the plunge and get your home on the market, so that way you can make the move that is best for you. So new listings were declined. We continued 49,000 new listings of single family homes this week, which is a big decline from recent trends. That's probably 1 week dip due to the election time. The expectation a bit of a rebound next week, that's going to go back maybe to about 55,000 or so. But for this week, the new listings countdown was about 20% in the week. There were fewer new sellers this week than last year for the first time in a while. I think really the election time, and especially I think this time around in my conversations with others, is that just how contentious and how it felt so much more stressful than last time. So I think that is also going to be is one of the things that is important. So now looking into 2025, the expectations of continued growth in the seller volume, more sellers and greater inventory is a trend for 2025. So the sale rates have dipped along with the new supply rate this week. And we're looking at about, 51,000 new sales started for the week, plus another 10,000 condo sales contracts. That pace is down notably from a week earlier. And then also, in fact, it's counted 2% fewer sales started this week than the same week last year. The recent average is 58,000 single-family home sales, and that's averaging about 10% more than the recent years in November. And one poor showing breaks our 10-week streak of year-over-year home sales growth, but it does not yet reverse the trend. On the other hand, here we go, with mortgage rates shooting up, maybe this autumn is shifting back into low sales mode. We've been disappointed with fake recoveries over the last 3 years. A reversal of our sales growth trend is not off the table. While there is an expectation of a rebound on the new pendings counting the week of November 10th, we don't get one, that will be a clear signal from the home buyers. I think it's not very realistic to see changes from week to week, because remember, Real estate is a much slower animal if you compare it to the stock market. Stock market is like a monkey that, depending on if the monkey has coffee or not, excited or not, or sleepy, it's going to be jumping up and down every day, because the stock market does react on every relevant news, or maybe even irrelevant piece of news that comes out. And that's why you have stock market that's constantly, zigzagging back and forth depending on a day and what is happening that day. Even home prices have dipped in the market activity in the election week as well. The median price of single family homes that started contract this week, those 49,000 newly pending sales, dropped a couple percent this week as well. Like the inventory and the sale volume, the expectation of a rebound in the price of next week. So we will see. And by this measure, even including the big dip this week, home prices are 4% above last year at this time at 380,000. What does that tell you? Only 4%. And again, this is probably an average that you take for the whole country. It is really not a good representation of exactly that is happening in your local market. I've seen prices increasing in our communities here around where I work and operate in my practice. They are definitely more than 4%. So it really is depending on where you are. So what I encourage you to do is, when you look at these news and you're seeing what's happening, take it with a grain of salt as, okay, this is general thing of what's happening to the housing market that has been kind of picked up and made into one average median number. You really do want to take a look and see what's happening in your own local market. And if you do need some recommendations for responsible agents or somebody who specializes in working with seniors, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to put you in touch with them, so that way you really get good clarity on what is happening in your current market. Price reductions, you guessed it, have ticked down. While home prices ticked down this week, it's probably due to the lower activity overall. One way to check that assumption is to look at the price reduction levels. If sellers are accelerating their price cuts, that would be a weakening signal. In fact, price reductions ticked down again this week. So we're down to 38.8% of the homes on the market with price cuts. That is fewer than last week and fewer than last year. So the price reductions are a leading indicator of future sale prices. What I am seeing as price reductions is also about how the market is doing, and if the buyers are taking a pause or if the buyers are still in the market. So that's how I'm looking at the price reductions that are happening in our market. Recently, as homes have sold or been withdrawn from the market, the percentage of listings that have taken price cuts from the original list price is ticking lower, which is telling us that the current expectations of buyers and sellers are lining up for the continued price resiliency in 2025. There aren't any signal the data that show home prices falling dramatically. I can tell you that just doesn't happen in real estate. There is no such thing as home prices falling dramatically. They're going to rise dramatically because it's a result of multiple offers and buyers are bidding the prices where you can be 20, 30,000 over asking. Actually, in matter of fact, example to that is this. The clients that I mentioned to you who are going to be selling in December, we put in the bid on the property that was a riverfront, so you could see the water, which is really what they wanted. We were in the multiple offer situation. I don't know how many offers they had. However, the home price was listed for $550,000. We gave them an offer price of $580,000 because that is all my clients were comfortable paying. We figured out the best numbers. We figured out what that translated into the monthly mortgage payment. And that's all they said that they were the max that they could do. And you know what? That home sold for 600 and I think it was either 620 or $630,000. So how is that a percentage? You know what? Let me do the math actually on this. Just so that way we're talking about percent. If we're talking about 4% here from this article, in the example of that particular one, I'm just going to take 620 as the example. 620. You're talking about me see. Yeah, you're talking about almost 12% over. So not 4% that they're talking about, but actually 10 to 12% increase in the new normal, right? So because now the $620,000, the closed sale price now becomes the new normal that the sellers in that neighborhood are now going to use as a potential for their own benchmark to say, if I wanted to put my house on the market, this is the number that I should be looking at. So you're talking about 10 to 12% over the previous price over a matter of 2 months. Only 2 months. So prices are jumping. Absolutely. Are they jumping quickly? They absolutely can, depending on your current situation in your neighborhood, in your marketplace. However, the prices are not going to drop like that, right? If you have a home on the market for $620,000 in our current market where the sellers are driving it because it's a seller's market, it's not going to sell for $550. It's just not going to happen. We're not back into the times of 2008, 9, 10, and 11. So as we look into 2025, it seems that we're lined up for another year where affordability is going to be difficult. It's very possible. I think that the new norm that I am seeing in our market is things that are inching towards $400,000 for first-time home buyers. And I really feel bad for those hardworking families and individuals that don't make a lot of money, but they have good, steady jobs. And the only thing that they can do really is rent, because they're not able to afford a home for $400,000 because they can only afford something that is up to $300,000. I actually have a few clients like that, and it's hard for me to watch to understand that I can't help them. So when you focus on affordability specifically, it's hard to imagine how home prices can stay elevated. Home buyers are stretched, and as long as prices stay high, demand will be limited. There are some forecasters who use affordability as a guide for assuming home prices that are going to fall in 2025 and 2026. At Housing Wire, they're about to publish their market forecast paper that is going to cover these perspectives. I'm actually going to check it out when it comes out just to see what they're talking about, and then kind of see what happens on what does that mean, and we'll go from there. I think it's hard to forecast on what's going to happen. You can only make certain judgments, and you almost have to make them as general as possible because you just don't know. We don't have that looking glass where we can look ahead and say, okay, this is what's happening. We can only take what has been the historic numbers and see where that goes. So, all right, the next question, the next article that I found that was helpful is, let's talk a little bit about the Trump government presidency and the plans on what they are talking about, what they're planning on doing, and how that is going to affect the housing market. So this is the other article that I want to share with you to see, and then I want to give you some of my opinion about it. So this one just came out, and the conversation on CNBC is, here is what the Trump presidency could mean for the housing market. And this is what the experts are saying. So this is also just a day or so old. So President-elect Donald Trump wants to address housing affordability in the United States by fomenting in the construction of new homes. We're going to open up tracts of federal land for housing construction, Trump said during his August 15th news conference. We desperately need housing for people who cannot afford on right now. As of mid-2023, there has been a housing shortage of 4 million homes in the States, according to National Association of Realtors. It's clear that the prescription is more building. National Association of Builders. So National Home Builders and new construction is also another great indicator and another follow. I am very much to see this and how because as builders to offer incentives like finished basement or they start applications to me that there's and the new builders as well first are over that hump in the market is kind of start to slow down. So I am always talking to other agents in other states because I really know what is happening with new construction. I can in Central Florida that I'm more familiar because I visited a couple of weeks ago to assess damage for myself as well as for my clients. Incentives. They're seeing higher commissions being offered to agents to bring. I'm also same thing in Texas. Basis visiting Austin because that's for my marriage, and I talked to my basis. And of course, we're both in the street. We how is your are you seeing any? How is the market based on November? Meaning that's closer to time, which is actually all different. And here, the Northeast has been like low 40s, and while in Texas, it's nice because they're now finally going their season because summer is winter because it's fully hot and people are hiking in the air conditioning. Now that the weather is nice, they're all coming out. I think that the market would pick up because now people are excited. The weather is nice. Shopping. Well, guess what? From last year to this year, their inventory has increased 4 times based on my conversation with my friend. They have buyers in the market because their homes are in the days on they're being marketed are increasing and they are so anyway, we're watching. Also, I find it interesting with regards, do you guys know where this, because I think in the where a lot of us are, which is big city suburbs, New York, maybe Boston, Dallas, and in California, I think most of that land that is available in the middle of the country. Probably like, if you want to live where the jobs are, want to be because the bigger the city opportunities are there, there is no land available there that the Federation is going to release. To see, okay. There's been a small increase in new homes. The high demand, leaving a gap in the market where there are not enough homes available for the buyers, according to the experts. US measure of new homes that began to just about over 1,030,000 in September, according to the US Census data. 2.7. Interesting. While building more, the simple answer to the housing issue in the country, other promises that efforts, according to the Trump has talked about enacting a mass deportation of immigrants, but doing so need to hire buildings. Construction on according to a senior economist. I agree. The immigrant labor, new construction, that is what you see. You see a lot of immigrant labor that is working there and working extremely hard. And if they are going to be going away, then who is going to do their job? So talking about construction, a lot of service industry is also is on immigrants, and I think that quite a bit of jobs that are in our senior industry, home health care, health aides that are at the senior community. We're talking about, not necessarily in living, but assisted living, nursing homes, memory care, hospice, and home care. We're seeing a lot of immigrants that are passionate and so need necessary care. I'm not sure how to help. Economist also said that President Donald Trump said he would pull down mortgages back to pandemic era, although presidents true. I don't know if it's a good idea to mortgage back to 2.5% where there is no inventory right now. Is it going to spur things? Yes, I think it down so low is going to create a lot of issues. Why trades never jump? They're done very deliberately, and they're done there's a reason for that. How some of Trump's policies could affect the housing market during this administration. Number one, regulations to increase affordability. At the end of the Trump's an executive order creating regulatory state, local, and tribal blueprint of the executive director of the bipartisan policy center, Willard Center campaign, slashing regulations and permanent housing costs for home buyers. Experts say regulatory costs trickle down to home. I do believe that a lot of the changes to availability and affordability are and can be done more on the local level, the federal or the state. Because if you think of zoning laws, how townships do things in their municipalities vary from town to town. So if you wanted to know what zoning laws are, if you wanted to see a municipal map to see which parts of the town are zoned and what that zoning means, you have to do it on municipal level. And that means that if you wanted changes in zoning, for example, let's say you were interested in converting a big home into 2-family, that potentially could mean changes in the zoning. You don't go to the state or the federal agency, you go to your municipality, you go into the zoning office and you apply for an exception to have that information reviewed and make changes, which means that the local government has a tremendous opportunities and tremendous control over the changes that they can make to create more affordability and more housing in the communities. So that's where I think the biggest things that can happen that are going to impact and have a positive impact on the economy. We will eliminate regulations that drive up housing costs with the goal of cutting the cost of a new home in half. These percentages and halves are just a little bit over the top, very sensational, and I don't really think that they're accurate. About 24% of the cost of a single family home and about 41% of the cost of a multifamily home are directly attributable to regulatory costs at the local, state, and federal level. If we reduce the regulatory burden on the home construction or apartment construction, we're going to lower the cost for the consumer. Number two, impacts on the construction workforce. Here we go. Exactly what we're just talking about, the immigration. Trump has also blamed rising home prices on a surge of illegal immigration during the Biden administration. However, experts say that most undocumented immigrants are not homeowners. Instead, they live in homes that are owned by U.S. citizens, according to the source. If a mass deportation were to happen, such homes would remain occupied, he added. Yet, proposals like mass deportations and tighter border control could impact housing affordability. About a third, or 31% of construction workers in the US were immigrants, according to the National Association of Home Builders. That's what NHB stands for. 31%, guys. That is a huge workforce, and that is a big foundation of our new construction in the housing market. Anything that threatens to disrupt the flow of immigrant labor will send shock waves to the labor market in the home construction. It's been difficult to recruit native-born workers into the construction industry, and according to a 2017 survey, construction trades are an unpopular career choice today for young American adults. Only 3% showed interest in the field, according to this poll. Interesting. I also think that when you're talking about the younger Americans, we're talking about the Generation Z, because they grew up in a very different era than millennials and Gen X's, and of course, heading towards the baby boomer generation. I think that every generation has very different views on standards, on how you work, and your own personal philosophies. And if you think about it, the generation of my kids, who are in their teens and starting to get into their 20s, they grew up, they don't even know that you can't get on internet on your phone. They don't even know that such things used to exist, and they didn't even know that at some point we didn't even have cell phones. So they grew up in a very much different world where having a cell phone that is a smartphone was just a normal to them. And I think that's also is important to understand, depending on when you're talking about and which generation you're also talking about. Therefore, a mass sweeping of available workers can create a labor shortage in construction, and with fewer workers, wages might increase, which will likely be passed on to the consumers through higher home prices. That's exactly what usually happens. You increase minimum wage, that is an increased cost to the restaurant industry, to the grocery store, to the business. So what do? They pass it down and increase the prices for that we are buying. That's exactly what's happening. The costs go up, the prices go up in order to accommodate for a tighter net margin. So what's more, it's going to take longer for construction companies to complete housing projects, therefore slowing down the efforts to increase the supply, which is exactly what we're talking about here, trying to provide the supply of homes for the increased and pent-up demand that we have. While we are doing a better job training the domestic workforce through trade schools, apprenticeships, programs, and other initiatives, the industry still heavily relies on immigrant labor. Agree? Number 3 is tariffs that could hike building costs. Trump has proposed a 10 to 20% tariff on all imports across the board, as well as a rate between 60% and 100% for goods from China. A blanket tariff at a 10 to 20% on raw building materials like lumber could push housing costs higher, as well as materials for home renovations. Here we go. We're back to a higher cost of materials, which, if you guys remember, lumber costs have skyrocketed during COVID, during the pandemic time. And what does that mean? Again, the cost of everything are going up as well, because the costs are built into the margins. Any tariffs that rise the cost of the products are going to flow directly to the consumer. Yeah, exactly. On average, construction costs. Oh, and you know what that means? Increased cost of goods and services is the increase of the inflation, where people are not going to be able to afford things. And we're talking about somebody who is retired, who lives on a fixed income. That is going to create even more problems for the baby boomers, because they are retired and they're living on a fixed income. On average, construction costs for single-family home is around $392,000, according to a data analysis by Resi Club. It's a housing and real estate data newsletter. I do look at their statistics as well, and I find it useful and helpful as well. It depends on what the tariffs will look like. According to a chief economist at Redfin, there could be varying impacts. Overall, Home builders expect to construct about 1.2 million new single-family homes and around 300,000 multifamily units over the next year. We're not quite building back up to the pace that we need to, but it will be higher, and it will be higher than this year. So it may be too soon to tell if the Trump administration is going to prioritize housing costs as much as Harris administration would have, and the aid that Trump has mentioned may not help densely populated areas as well. Trump mentioned plans to release federal lands for housing, but federal lands tend to concentrate in rural areas, and that doesn't really do anything for those densely populated blue cities that really need the most help. That's exactly what I said. Exactly what I said. So yes, so that is exactly. So my suggestion to you is we're just going to wait and see. I really think it's too early to tell. There were a lot of things that were said by both candidates in terms of the economic incentives and what are they going to do to curb inflation, to create affordability, to create more jobs, and of course, the usual topics that get talked over, all of these hot topics that get talked over every 4 years. I think it's just too soon to tell. My suggestion is just to, yes, get some more patience, and it's not easy for many of us, but at the same time, let's just wait and see the new year. Let's enjoy the holidays. Let's get through inauguration. And then the first quarter, going into the second quarter, then we're going to start to see some of these changes. And the last article that I want to share with you is a little bit more prevalent on the actual conversation of the boomers and the housing market. And when are we going to see baby boomers actually starting to move and put their homes up for sale? So this is the other article that I wanted to go over with you and give you my food for thought. Boomers are aging out of their homes. Will this finally cause home prices to drop? Again, brand new food for thought that I just wanted to share with you. And let's see what happens. Some experts predict that we are approaching a silver tsunami in the real estate market. What does that mean? The silver tsunami is the idea that baby boomers will soon be selling their homes in mass, because if you think about it, majority of the baby boomers are going to be age 65 and older by the year 2030, which means that technically if you do away with 2024, because we're there, I think a lot of us are also making plans and business plans already for the year of 2025. We are 5 years away from that happening. And is a bigger picture, 5 years is not that much when we're talking about the housing market and how is that going to affect the supply and demand. While this has been anticipated for some time, this particular agent believes there will be more of a gradual tide than a sudden wave, with homes becoming available over a longer period. I agree. As I already mentioned to you, the real estate market is a much slower moving elephant. It's just kind of lumbers forward, but at the same time, it can be slowed down or it can speed things up, but all those things are done very slowly. The note was done that many boomers are not in any rush to leave their homes. Many boomers are holding on to their mortgages with the rates of as low as 2 to 3%, something that they've never seen before. And this low rate reduces their incentive to sell, so it's likely that many will hold on to their homes as long as possible. True, that is one motivator. And what I can tell you is in the majority situations of the seniors that I'm working with and I'm in touch with on a regular basis, because that is what we do. We provide them with the resources because most of them want to age in place. They want to spend their golden years in their home because that's what makes sense to them. And yes, it makes sense for me as well, because that is the place where they have lived and enjoyed and created so many memories that they want to treasure. It is a familiar space. They like it. They feel comfortable, and what's familiar is the best. And most people, not even just seniors, just don't want to deal with change because that creates uncertainty and anxiety. And that's the bottom line. So I think the need in many cases overcomes the idea of, well, I have a little bit of mortgage left and it's only 2 to 3%, which technically it's really free money, but there is no need for them. There is no pain point of them having to sell the house and move. And a lot of the time, those pain points are the health deteriorating, where they cannot do the stairs or they trip and fall and then they end up in the rehab, and then the doctor and the team are telling them it is not safe for them to come back home. So the pain point most of the time is a health scare or a health situation where it deteriorates enough where the senior needs a lot of personal and health care. However, if and when seniors do sell their homes, will this add the supply and create the supply available to younger generations? Yes, maybe, but is it going to cause home prices to drop? This expert believes the added supply caused by the silver tsunami will be balanced out by increased demand from younger generations, which means it won't have any drastic effect on prices. And you know what, too? Let me put this in here. Let's see. All right, so here we go. Guess what? The largest generation today is millennials, which are the people that were born between 1981 and 1996, right? So that means that is the generation that is shopping for a home right now. And that means that if seniors start putting more homes on the market, I believe there will be just plenty of millennials who are going to want to buy those homes. I think it would have been different. We would have maybe had a different conversation if it wasn't the millennials. Maybe if it was a smaller generation, then yes, it would be a lot more supply of those homes, just not enough buyers. And then, of course, the situation would reverse, and we'll be in the situation where there are very few buyers and they have a ton of different picks because there's plenty of inventory on the market. While they may gradually add inventory, the slow pace should allow demand from millennials and Gen Zs to keep up 100%. The US housing market is currently facing a shortage, but there is also a lot of pent-up demand. Over the last few years, affordability challenges have prevented many millennials and Gen Z buyers from entering the market, impacting the move-up segment. However, as the market cycles, these younger buyers are expected to fill the demand as baby boomers gradually sell. Because she also predicts that boomers will be selling their homes in waves rather than in tsunami. I agree. I think it's going to be wave, and we're going to see a little bit of this, but it's going to be softer waves. The housing market is a slow moving and cyclical, so while the silver tsunami may influence inventory over time, a steady demand from younger buyers is likely to balance it out. I agree. As boomers age out of their current homes, they could be looking to buy smaller turnkey homes, particularly in places with thriving retirement communities. This increased demand for specific properties could actually drive some home prices higher. So we'll see what happens. Anytime demand outpaces supply, upward pressure on prices is almost guaranteed. If builders can't keep pace, we're likely to see rising prices for the types of homes boomers want, which is smaller, turnkey properties that are accessible, low maintenance, and in the safe, desirable communities that support easy living. One story is what we're looking for. This demand could especially impact prices in warmer climates or popular retirement spots. And you know what, too? The conversation that I had recently with a couple of people was the fact that there's a small 55 plus community that is being built in my area. And what I don't understand, but I do understand, is they're building carriage homes, which is one story. They probably will have a loft. I actually want to visit them, with a two-car garage. But they're also building condos, which are 2 stories, which means that in order to get to the condo, you have to go up a flight of stairs. So technically it is 1-story living, but it could be on the first floor or it could be on the second floor. And I understand why they're doing that, because in many suburban areas that are not rural, there is just not enough land to be able to scale to the point where you can just put a bunch of single-story homes, because they take up a lot of land space. And that is why there's a compromise of having some carriage homes and then also having some of them that are also going to be first and second floor. So that makes sense for somebody who may be 55, right? They're in the beginning of their journey to kind of get started thinking about retirement or maybe take an early retirement. But it's a very, very different conversation with somebody who's in their 70s and heading into 80s, because they just can't do the stairs anymore. So just something as a food for thought. I wish the builders, they probably are doing the best that they can depending on where they're building. I understand where they're coming from because they are for profit, right? It's a business, they need to make money. However, I do think there's going to be a shortage of homes when the baby boomers are going into their mid 60s and getting older, where they're going to have to downsize, and there may not be enough supply of the 55 plus communities that have that one story living. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens in the next 5 years. So what questions do you guys have? I would love to hear from you, either reaction on what's happened with elections last week, what is happening with the housing market, what do you anticipate happening, or what do you see happening maybe in the next 6 weeks to 2 months or so. I would love to hear your opinion. So we have a question. All right, so here's a question. My wife and I are getting close to retirement, so we're in our 61 and 60. I have been managing investments for the past 30 years and have good understanding of what our income stream will be. We pay our bills and we live below our means. However, we do not have a good lock on our expenditures. I am searching for basic, simple to use program to start tracking our expenses. I don't want this to be an all-consuming hobby, but something that is easy to use program that provides a 90% solution. I love that you guys are doing this. In quite a few of my videos, I am very insistent on having a budget, and it's very simple to make. However, having a budget and a bird's eye view of understanding of how much money you have coming in and what are your monthly expenses, I think is a foundation to help you sleep at night. For the lack of better explanation of not just knowing your financial situation, but knowing your numbers that you can see, which yes, they can vary month to month, but just having some basic idea, I can guarantee you is going to help you sleep better at night if you're having a hard time sleeping. So let's see what you guys came up with some of the suggestions. Hi, Dazzle Mom. I use a simple spreadsheet. Yes, agree. Everything I do goes through my checking account. All income after deductions and all bill pays. Nearly everything that I purchase is through a credit card, insurance, vacation, etc., and paid from this checking account. You can quickly download all of the checking account transactions and paste them into a spreadsheet, and boom, I have my yearly spending and my monthly. Agreed. I actually think that having an easy spreadsheet, in fact, I'm going to show you the one that I recommend, that I have it as a link on a lot of my videos. And I'm also going to post it under this video too, because we're talking about it. I'm going to share with you the monthly budget that I found, and I just modified it to make it simple for you. And I also have a net worth tracker. I really do think that it's very important for you guys to also track your net worth. And the net worth simply is the difference between what you own as your assets and then what your liabilities are. So with mortgages, if you have car payments, if you have credit card debt, once you subtract what you owe from your assets, the difference is your net worth. And the goal is every month as you pay down your debt or you control your expenses, you're going to grow your net worth, because that is the money that you have as part of the vehicles to help you have a healthy and happy retirement. K9 Iron says that I used a simple Google Sheets file from that you love. It's a nice, simple spreadsheet that you can track income and expenses. Absolutely agree. and I appreciate you sharing. And that's exactly what I'm going to share as soon as we get through some of these suggestions as well. SK Wheel says, we use Power Personal Capital. It has some glitches, but for a free app, it can't be beat. Actually, I agree. And let me show you what it looks like. It's free. Let me go into here so I can show you what it looks like. Let's see. Let me go back to. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. This is what this suggestion has been. And I agree that this is something that you can use because it actually pulls so it's called empower.com. And then you go to individuals and you go into personal investors. And you can literally just sign up with the free app. And then what it does, it pulls all of your accounts all in one space. And you can actually have it on your phone as well. And I found it to be easy. Like this is exactly what you have. They're going to pull all of your cash, all your assets, your home, your value of your home, and then they're going to pull all your debt, and then they're going to calculate that net worth for you. So I found it to be helpful. So my suggestion is to check them out. See, you can get it on the App Store, you can get it in Google Pay, and no, you do not need to use their investor services to be able to use this app. So I suggest that you give that a shot. Sitwin, welcome. I just use Google Sheets with a monthly and annual template I manually fill out. This is my 4th year of tracking all of my spending as I near retirement. Perfect. And I feel I have a pretty good baseline of how much my normal spending is, and I can factor in things like higher insurance, etc. in retirement. I agree. I think that doing a spreadsheet is a good idea. So since we are talking about spreadsheets, let me show you the one that I just mentioned to you, monthly budget sheet, which is what I'm going to post a link. And what you can do is, this is what it looks like. Perfect. All right. So you should be able to see the actual monthly budget. So when you open my link that I'm going to post under this video, this is what it looks like. It literally has just expenses and income. And all you have to do is you can easily change this into other things that you have. And also I have included like other category, right? So you have other, you have custom. If there's other things that make sense for you, and you can rename them. You can make these things into whatever you want categories. Okay, and it gets saved automatically. So when you get a link to this, what you need to do is you need to go into File, and then you click on Make a Copy, and then you're going to be able to save this spreadsheet into your own computer. Okay, so you're not going to be able to actually change mine because for you, this is going to be view only. So in order to do that, is you're going to go File and then Make a Copy. Okay, so this one has your expenses and your income. And then if you want, you can actually have the transactions in here too. I do suggest that you actually keep track because it's going to be able to show you what you have going on in your finances every month. And then on the top, it's going to actually give you a nice spreadsheet, increases and savings and all of this information. Okay, because see how it's got an actual calculator and a formula in here that is part of. So you can make plans. You can see what your actual expenses are, how much your plan income is, and what your actual is, because you can do the same thing on the income part. Where is your money coming from? Is it savings, your part-time job, Social Security? Maybe you're making withdrawals from your individual retirement accounts, something else. If you have real estate investments, if you have some kind of passive income coming, depending on what those passive investments are. So that's this one. And then the other one that I already mentioned to you that I'm going to show you is the net worth tracker. Also a Google Sheet. very easy to use. I don't like complicated things, so you're only going to get easy things from me. And it's this one, Networth Tracker. Here we go. Also very easy. So another reminder, for every Google Sheet, and I like Google Sheets because they are saved online and you don't have to worry about losing information, is whenever you get somebody else's template, as an example, the way to do that is you always want to go into File and then make a copy. That is how you make a copy your own. See? And then what you can do is just change the name, and then you can save it anywhere you want. Okay, so that's how to do that. So Networth Tracker there's a drop down depending on when are you starting, right? And you can change it and create the years, right? There's a little pencil here for you that you can do. And then when you go down the list, there's right here, these are the instructions of what you need to do right here. And then you have different tabs. You have your net worth summary. You have total cash, your investments, the properties that you own, other businesses, other categories are here. And then you can actually add. There is a separate tab for each of these things that you can actually add. And my suggestion to you is take your time. It may take you 30 minutes in the beginning to set it up, but it will give you such an amazing bird's eye view on how you are doing and how things are changing month to month. So yes, if you have more than one checking account, you would put it in here. So you put in here TD Bank, and then maybe you have a Bank of America, and then you can specify if it's, depending on what it is, if you want to remember. If you have something else, and then of course you have your savings account, so put all that information here. I do hope that you have your money in high yield savings account. Some of the best ones that I have seen is Marcus. I know that American Express has some. And what I encourage you to do is visit raisin.com. No, that's not the right one. It's raisin.com is where you can find actual most up-to-date information on high yield savings accounts. So that's what I would suggest you do. And if you want, I can actually pull it up. So you have then investments, you have other assets, you have business, and then you have some other things in here. So after you've done your assets, then you need to go to your liabilities. And this is where we're talking about the stuff that you owe. So be brutally honest with you and write it all in here. Credit card debt, consumer loans, car loans, student loans, money owed others, unpaid taxes, whatever they are, you can change all of these categories. Okay. And let me show you Raisin, because I know I've mentioned this before, and people were asking me about what this is. Let me show you what this is. I love it because it's all in one place and it can tell you, give you an update all in one platform. Raisin.com. And you know why it's easy to remember? Because it is a dry grape. That's why it's easy to remember. So Raisin, it is a summary of 70 plus insured banks and credit unions. It gives you top savings rates, and you can just take a look and see. Okay, so here's your savings accounts. It gives you idea on where you can save and how much money you're going to earn. 4.6% with a couple of different unions, Patriot Bank, and you actually can find out. See, it says it's going to tell you what kind of product it is. This one, it says money market. So if you're not interested in that, you can maybe go into this Liberty Savings. Then this is a high yield savings account. That's where you want to keep your savings money, your rainy day fund, things that you need to get quick access to should be sitting in the high yield savings account and earning you cash, 100%. So this is the website to go to see what is being offered currently. All right, here you go. Products, CDs. If you want to get a CD, remember the difference between a high yield savings account and the CD is that you cannot access your money in the CD for a period of time. So if you wanted to actually invest in the CD, it's going to tell you what are some of the options. High yield certificate for just 1 month, you can invest it for 4.5% for this one. Here's another one, 4.4% for 3 months, which means that your money is tied up in that CD for 3 months, but you're going to earn that interest. So check out this website. I find it to be very helpful because it's an aggregate of accurate and up-to-date information. So what else do we have here? So you can see information and other things and how it works. So definitely check it out. All right, let me see what else do we have in terms of questions. What else do we have going on that you guys want to share? You're welcome to put in the comments and chat. Otherwise, we can wrap up and then have a good rest of our week and then get ready for another live, of course, that I'm going to see you again next Wednesday. All right, well, this is all I have for you today. We talked a little bit about new Trump administration coming into town and taking control in the realm and the helm of the country starting in January of 2025. Of course, we now are about 6 weeks out from the new year. And also, the other suggestion that I have for you in between of eating a turkey and shopping for holidays and enjoying spending time with your loved ones and maybe doing some traveling and looking at, going to some of the fairs and craft shows and things like that I truly enjoy the season for. I also encourage you to take your time and make plans for next year. Decide on some of the things that you may want to accomplish. So I typically try to divide up the planning in a couple of different categories. So you could have a category that is personal, strictly for you. What are some of the things that you may want to do? And one of the fun things that you can do is create a list that has a number. So one of my favorite podcasters, her name is Gretchen Rubin, and her podcast is called Happier. And they talk about all different things, but of course it evolves around happiness and being happy, which means staying positive. And she created this list. It's called, number, like whatever the year is. Like this year, it was 24 for 24. And of course, next year is going to be 25 in 25. And that means accomplishing or trying something new, 25 of different things in the year of 2025. So I encourage you maybe to take that list and break it down in different categories. So it could be that 5 things are personal, whatever it is that you want to do. And it's not necessarily something that you want to accomplish, but it could be something to try. I may want to try something that I've never had before, maybe a different type of food, right? And then another 5 things, it could be to do something with my sibling. I have a sister. Or maybe something to do with your parents. Another one could be professional. If you maybe want to decide that you want to get a raise next year, what does that look like and what needs to happen for that? Then you can have another one to do with your family. And then it could be something, that is maybe you want to contribute to the community. You want to do some community service and make a world a better place. What does that look like to you? Because every little bit, every chip, every little tiny move forward is going to count. So what does that look like to you? I know I did that with my daughters last year, but I also think that it's important that, first of all, you take that 25 and 25 and you put that in front of you so that we can see it every day. So it could be on the mirror in your bathroom. It could be on the mirror in your bedroom. It could be right here on the wall that is in my office. So that way I look at it every day. And then you break it down into manageable small goals. So if you have 25 things, and let's say that you break it into 5 categories of 5 things each, then you break it into quarter. What do you want to get accomplished every quarter? And then you break it down into the things that you want to do every month. So, and it could be things that maybe are dependent on the holiday season. Maybe you never snowboarded before and you want to try that. That means you can really only do that in the month of January or February, depending on where you live in the United States. So that is what I'm encouraging you to do, because the month of November, December, people are kind of encouraged to start making New Year's resolutions. And I'm not necessarily a fan of resolutions, but I'm a fan of creating a list of maybes. Maybe to try if I have some time. And if I don't, that's okay, because then you can just take those things and carry them over to the next year. But the goal is, of course, to check off some of these things off your list. And let me show you Gretchen Rubin. If you want to get that list 25 in 25, I bet you she already has it up and running. Let me see on her website. We can look at it actually together. Let's see, present. Okay. So this is Gretchen Rubin that I mentioned to you. She has a fun podcast. It's called Happier. And let me see, 24 for 24. Let me find 25 and 25, if she has that already or not. Okay. Let's see under the resources. All right. Yep. Here we go. Look, they actually have, it's called the Write 24 for 24 list. So this one is write a list of 24 things, big or small, that you would like to get done this year. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. But instead, you just need to make it, yeah, here we go. It's 24 and 24. So this is the list that I shared with you guys last year. And I have to give them my email. And here we go. Here's the list. So my suggestion to you is just scratch off 4 and write in 5. You can choose a word of the year. And then here we go. Your list, you can actually put like a thick line between between 5 and 6, because if you do like 5 different categories, and then you have a little box here to check it off. So I find this to be so much fun. And I've done this with my daughters. So here you go. I'm actually going to download it. And if you want, I can actually post it under this video too, so you guys can link it as well. But this is just a fun way for you to think about the things that you want to do, because it's always funner when you have a fun list of things, and they're not things that are must-dos, but they're just maybes. So one of the workshops that I teach as part of our community enrichment is actually just planning for the next year, and what does that look like. And one of them is the things that I have found through her podcast, which is Gretchen's list that is 24 for 24 that I already mentioned to you. So besides that, also think about maybe you have some certain financial goals, or if you are planning for retirement, one of the things that may be on your list would be to start a notebook, to grab a notebook, something pretty. If you want to buy it when the Black Friday that is starting in about a week or so, and just jot down some thoughts and ideas on what that planning would look like. And I've submitted suggestions to people to actually make different categories in your retirement planning of, where place I want to live. What do my finances look like? Who do I need to talk to? Who's on my team? Do I need to find a financial advisor? Do I need to find an accountant? Potentially legal documents. Do I need to contact an elder care attorney to get some of my legal documents drawn up, like a power of attorney or your will, or maybe plan things even further out, which I strongly do recommend. So your list of accomplishments and kind of thinking ahead, what does that next year looks like, could be simply as just starting a notebook and jotting some of your thoughts down. I already mentioned when I was doing some of my other workshops that it has been proven through research that when you write things down with a pen and a notebook and you actually commemorate your thoughts on paper, not on your phone, not when you're tapping it and you're typing with your fingers on your tablet or even type it on the computer, but actually paper, physical paper, it does something to release good hormones and make you feel better knowing that something that's been bothering you, something that is important to you is now written down in your notebook, and now you don't have to worry about forgetting about it. And it's almost like, the thoughts that we have, because they constantly rattle in our head and they're just running around like a hamster in a wheel. And if you write them down, you are actually emptying your brain, because your brain is not supposed to be your storage bank. Your brain is there to help you come up with new ideas and create progress and help you think things through. Yet use something else as a vehicle to help you remember things. So that's number one. And the other thing that I'm going to encourage you, that I have been working very hard on this year, and I'll show you, is a journal. It's another notebook. You can pick anything you want, but the idea is to use the journal as one of the authors have said that was so eloquent, is windshield wipers, to basically just get things off your mind. We are interesting creatures, very complicated, whatever happens in your brains, and also depends on your personality. But I have always lots of stuff that is just running through my head, and ideas and thinking things through, and ideas for lives, and my topics and videos is just part of that. But I found that journaling, just, jotting things down and putting a date and maybe dedicating at least one page is just something helpful. And what I can tell you is that if you look at my journal, I don't know if you can see it, it's not full pages all the time. Sometimes it's like half a page. And lately, actually, I even had a couple of pages where it's only literally just 2 sentences right here. This is actually 4 days worth. 4 days worth of notes, because I think in many days I got distracted and I just never finished. Here's my here's my entry for November 1st. I get excited the day before Halloween and the day off, right? I'm not a fan of Halloween overall, but that's all I wrote, because then I got distracted and then I started running because it was November 1st. It was the beginning of the work day, and that's all I wrote. The idea here is that you write something. So my recommendation to you is, today's the 13th. And you know what? I didn't write anything in yet. So I need to do some journaling and maybe just talking about my day and just talking about what's on my mind, or maybe something interesting that I learned today, because I listen to podcasts when I'm on my way to see clients or to go into meetings. I jot this down because I found it very interesting when I went back to the first page of my journal and I start to actually read what I wrote. It's interesting to see how much I have changed, and maybe some of my plans have changed. And actually, if you look at my first page of my journal, it's my 24 and 24 list. So I actually ended up putting it on my journal. So the thing that I actually learned today that I'm going to transfer into my journal from a podcast that I listened to today on my way home, and I want to read it to you, and then we're going to wrap up today, is 2 things. One is that somebody who is maybe wealthy or who has created a good life, they didn't get there by a sudden luck. They got there by what he called a slow and steady struggle. So that's what I wrote. I actually wrote a slow and steady struggle. And the second thing that he said, it's little chips at a time, which I actually already used that word to share with you today, is where we contribute and we make progress every day. Sometimes we may not see it because it could be as small as a little paper clip. So that's what I took away from the podcast that I was listening to on my way back to my office to get ready to talk to you for the YouTube live. But these are the two things that really struck me in the beginning of that podcast that I'm going to write in my journal. So that's my rest of my share, how we went from the housing market to something else, just a couple of tidbits that I want to share with you that I hope that you will find helpful. And of course, if you have anything to share, please put your comments or email me or text me or give me a call, because you have my information. So that's all for today. If you have anything else that you want to pick my brain on or some hot topics to discuss, please let me know, and I'll be sure to include you in another YouTube live and to answer your questions and to talk more about what I love to do most, which is helping seniors, talking about housing market, and being a resource to all of you. So thank you so much for joining me today. You have a great rest of your week, and we will see you again next Wednesday. Bye-bye, everybody.